From children's programs to in-depth documentaries, SDPB sparks curiosity and lifelong learning in every South Dakotan. SDPB. Good, useful, and full of wonder.
The South Dakota Public Utilities Commission meeting is called to order. It is Thursday, March 26, 2026. It is 1:30 Central Time. We are in Pierre, South Dakota, in the state capitol in room 413. I am Vice Chairperson Christy Fegan, and with me today, I believe from the MISO board meeting, is Commissioner Nelson, and with us today on the phone is Commissioner Hansen. With that, fellow commissioners, we have the first item is approval of the minutes from the commission meeting held March 10th, 2026. Is there a motion?
Nelson moves to approve.
Move to approve. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. Consumer reports. So Deb Gregg is on her way to the Black Hills Home Show in Rapid City. So with that, Amanda Reese.
Thank you, Commissioner Fegan. This is Amanda Reese for staff filling in for Deb Gregg. The Commission has received a total of 68 contacts since the last report was prepared for the March 10th, 2026 Commission meeting. 7 contacts were related to telecommunication services, 44 contacts were related to electrical services, 2 contacts were related to natural gas service, 3 contacts were related to wireless service, 1 contact was related to wind energy, 3 contacts were related to unwanted calls and the Do Not Call registry, and 8 contacts were related to issues not regulated by the PUC. 353 of the 363 contacts received in 2026 have been resolved.
Thank you, Amanda. Are there questions of commissioners? Hearing none, we are going to go to our agenda items, and we're going to start with our electric dockets, EL 26-001, and the matter of the filing of Otter Tail Power Company for approval of tariff revisions to its rates for small power production and cogeneration. The question before the commission is, shall the commission approve the proposed revisions to Otter Tail rate for small power production and cogeneration for qualifying facilities and revised by My Renewable Energy Credit Rider with an effective date of April 1st, 2026. Otter Tail, you're first.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. This is Chris Burns on behalf of Otter Tail Power. I just want to thank the Commission staff and the Commission for the review of the filing and request approval of the filing. Otter Tail is available for questions.
Thank you. Staff.
Thank you. This is John Thurber for Commission staff. Staff would recommend approval of the tariff revisions with an effective date of April 1st. Thank you.
Are there questions of commissioners? I do have a question. I appreciate the filing, and, avoided costs are sometimes some of my favorite dockets to look at. And I am seeing that there is a shortfall, it looks like, in the winter of 2026 on capacity. So, Otter Tail, you've talked about the changes in MISO, the seasonal capacity construct, accreditation, all that type of stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And then the rate analysts, I'm going to be asking you follow-up questions on how you look at that and if they inform you of being short on capacity and et cetera. So I'm going to start with Otter Tail.
Thanks, Commissioner. I appreciate the question. I wouldn't consider myself the subject matter expert on the capacity shortfall, but my understanding is that the methodology that MISO construct that we base this off of and the reliability-based demand curves is basically the metrics we're using has changed and shown that we have being shorter than previously expected.
And I did have a question about the reliability-based demand curve. I was going to Google it, but I didn't have time. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Commissioner Fegan, I would not be a subject matter expert on that. We're talking with our resource planners, and they'd be better to answer that, but I do not have them on the phone with me. Okay.
So I think it's the staff, rate staff, I think, John Thurber. I don't think this is you. But do our investor-owned utilities meet with you and show you when MISO or SPP has new accreditation? And do they show you how it impacts their PRM and their accreditation and how, like in the MISO market, they're shorting capacity and what they're going to do about that and how it impacts our ratepayers? Do they do any of that? And I'm looking at both of you. I don't know who wants to talk.
I can take a stab at that one or try. This is Eric Paulson for staff. I think when they have these big changes, there's no requirement to meet with us and tell us about them. I will say in this instance, next month we do have a meeting with Otter Tail. I noticed on my calendar like 2 days ago about resource planning updates. So I'm assuming if there was big changes like mentioned in here, they'll probably be mentioned in that meeting. But that meeting's far enough out, I don't know the details on what exactly that all is.
Thank you. And I'm sure Commissioner Nelson and Commissioner Hansen also agreed that there's a lot of changes in regional transmission organizations and how we're doing accreditation. And so how do we look at our investor-owned utilities in the future, and how do we get that information when there's policy changes and what that does to our utility? So I don't know how we look at that in the future, if we encourage our staff to keep an eye on that, or if during like a yearly planning or a yearly presentation they come to the commission. So it's something that I'm certainly interested in and seeing the changes on that. Any other questions and or action of commissioners?
This is Commissioner Nelson and EL 26-001. I move that the Commission approve the proposed revisions to Otter Tail's rates for small power production and cogeneration for qualifying facilities and revise the My Renewable Energy Credit Rider with an effective date of April 1st, 2026.
Comments on the motion?
No really comments on the filing, just a maybe follow up on your earlier discussion, Commissioner Fegan, so folks that are listening out there understand that the changes that MISO has made that have been referred to are all driving at more appropriately pricing capacity, and even more importantly, making sure that there is sufficient capacity for the load that's on the system, especially when times are tight. And so the fact that Otter Tail is having to perhaps procure more capacity is simply for the reason of improving reliability of the system. And I think that's a great thing for folks to understand.
Other comments? Thank you, Commissioner Nelson, to talk about the reliability of the system, because I know the commissioners and the utilities are focusing on that, especially since Storm Erie in 2021. So thank you. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our second electric docket, EL 26-002, in the matter of Mid-American Energy Company application for approval of its 2025 reconciliation and 2026 transmission cost recovery factors. The question before the Commission: shall the Commission approve the revised transmission cost recovery rate factors and the revised tariff sheets with an effective date of April 1st, 2026? Go ahead, Mid-American.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Gretchen Kramer from Mid-American Energy. We also have Lori Brockhouse available to answer any questions. Mid-American is truing up its transmission costs and adjusting the rider accordingly. This presentation has been annual before the Commission for several years, and we're asking that the Commission approve the most recent revision and transmission cost recovery factors. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff.
Thank you. This is Pat Stephenson of staff. Staff has reviewed the filing. Mid-American has responded to our questions, and we would recommend the Commission approve the revised transmission cost recovery rate factors and revised tariff sheet with an effective date of April 2nd, 2026. Thanks.
Questions of commissioners? I'm going to go back to your application, and it really has to deal with MISO. And it's interesting that Commissioner Nelson is working with MISO this week. But in your application on page 5, it talks about how you work hard at Mid-American on the MISO committees, like the Planning Advisory Committee, the Planning Subcommittee, the Reliability Market Committee, to make sure the TCR costs are reasonable. And then you also talk about another committee that you're very involved in, and it's the TO committee. And it's 30 utilities and the transmission organizations, and you meet 5 times a year face-to-face and et cetera. But your main statement is that your goal as Mid-American is to certainly ensure that the efforts that you're focusing on all those committees is cost-effective transmission. And your last sentence on page 6 of the first paragraph talks about how you continue to be influential at Mid-American at the MISO committees. Could you give an example of a time that you advocated for something at one of these committees or the TO committee that impacted ratepayers in a positive way, and it was a cost-effective policy that you advocated for?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. This is Gretchen Kramer from Mid-American. I'll take a stab at it. We do have a number of different staff that attend the committee meetings respective to their subject matter expertise. We also have a bi-weekly meeting where all of those staff meet, just Mid-American, to make sure that we're tracking everything appropriately, that we're providing feedback appropriately. Most of the major initiatives comments are provided. We've also protested a few. I know with the DLOL, Mid-American filed a formal protest. That was not effective. We were not able to get our point across to your request for an example. I do believe with the MISO tranche projects, some of the modeling requests have been accepted, and so there's very much a collaborative effort between MISO and the transmission owners. information is sought, information is received, and I think that it's a very effective process, ensuring that MISO's needs are met and that transmission owners, such as Mid-American's, voices are heard in that process.
Thank you. And so when you say Mid-Americans' voices are heard, do you mean also the customers' voices?
Well, we do attempt to speak in a cost-effective way. I can't say that we represent the customer specifically. We certainly represent the company's interests, and the company is interested in making sure that rates are reasonable.
Okay. And I'm sure
I don't know that I have authority to speak for the customer, so that's why I'm fumbling a little bit on the commissioner's question.
Okay. So I know Commissioner Nelson and Hansen have worked with MISO and advocate for the customers. The other question I have is about FERC oversight, and you talk about the lowest reasonable cost. So when you work with FERC, are you advocating for the most reasonable, lowest cost?
So that would depend on the particular issue before FERC. In the DLOL example that I gave, we had some concerns about the modeling, and so sometimes it's a concern that doesn't directly relate to cost, but would impact cost. I think in that particular example, we wanted wind to get a different accreditation based on Mid-American's expertise. We work with a group of transmission owners. There are also times that Mid-American will file something separately with the FERC, but typically we work with a group of transmission owners and come to a consensus on what the position is and represent that to FERC.
Well, I'm grateful in your filing that it talks about the lowest reasonable cost, and so I appreciate that on page 6. With that, are there other questions of commissioners?
This is Commissioner Nelson. I'll maybe follow up since you brought up the MISO transmission owners and the fact that Mid-Am is part of that group. And so my question for Mid-Am, the transmission owners group is posing a full refund of the excess ROE that has been collected for at least the last dozen years. Is Mid-Am opposing that return of money to ratepayers?
I believe we are part of that. I think one of the questions on that was a procedural issue, given that the initial order was, 2015, 2016, maybe even before that. And so my off-the-cuff recollection is that it's the span of time that's of concern. Obviously, we want to be fair to customers and to appropriately provide refunds, but this has been pending before the FERC for a really long time. And I think that's one of the issues that the transmission owners are raising.
Yeah, I would agree that's correct. And obviously, I think on behalf of our commission, we believe the fair thing to do would be to return all of the excess money going back to 2015 as opposed to fighting that. No further questions or comments, though.
Other questions of commissioners and or action?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
in EL 26-002, I move that the commission approve the revised transmission cost recovery rate factors and the revised tariff sheet with an effective date of April 2, 2026. I don't have any comments. I believe we've discussed, or you folks have discussed it sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. And the item I'm going to look at is the application. And when I look at the second paragraph on page 6 of the application, it certainly talks about Mid-American working with other MISO members, but on the FERC oversight. And it says to ensure the lowest reasonable cost are included in rates. So I appreciate that statement in your filing. With that, is there any other comments? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our third electric docket today, EL 26-005. And the matter of the filing of MDU, a subsidiary of MDU Resource Group, Inc., for approval of the annual update to its transmission cost recovery rider rate. The question before the commission: shall the commission assess a filing fee in the amount of up to $50,000 to account for actual expenses incurred in the review of this filing commencing from the filing date? We will go to staff or MDU first. MDU? MDU. We'll go to MDU first.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Brad Davison with Montana Dakota Utilities. The company does not oppose the filing fee being decided today.
Staff.
Thank you. This is Eric Paulson for staff. This is just the statutory filing fee of up to $50,000 to account for actual expenses incurred, and staff would recommend the commission approve the filing fee. Thank you.
Any questions of commissioners and/or action? In EL 26-005, I move that the commission assess a filing fee in the amount of up to $50,000 to account for actual expenses incurred in the review of this filing commencing from the filing date. Any other comments? Otherwise, all in favor say aye, and we will start with Hanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our fourth electric docket, EL 26-006, in the matter of the filing of Mid-American Energy Company for the approval of the revision to its rates QF. Shall the commission approve the Mid-American tariff revisions with an effective date of April 8th, 2026? Mid-American, you're first.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Gretchen Kramer for Mid-American. This proposal follows a proposal that Mid-American made to the FERC to align its tariff with some of the FERC rules on some of these smaller power production and cogeneration QFs. And these proposed tariff revisions will sync us up so that everything is in alignment. I have with me today Jeff Cook, who is the attorney who handled the FERC filing, and Diane Votino, who is our tariff expert. And we would ask that the commission approve Mid-American's tariff revisions with an effective date of April 8th, 2026.
Thank you. Staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Fegan. This is Amanda Reese for staff. Staff has reviewed the filing, and the tariff revisions appear to align with the FERC ruling regarding the QF in this case, and would recommend approval. Thank you.
Questions of commissioners and/or action?
In EL 26-006, I move that the commission approve Mid-American's tariff revisions with an effective date of April 8th, 2026.
Comments on the motion?
I'd simply say this rule change by FERC was a very positive change, and so happy to support this effort to bring Mid-Am's tariff in line with it.
Any other comments? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our last docket, which is a grain warehouse docket, GW 26-001, in the matter of the settlement agreement with Schooler Company and Schooler Canada, ULC. The question before the commission: shall the commission approve the settlement agreement and assess a civil penalty of $5,000 against Schooler, or how shall the commission proceed? Staff, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Logan Shapar for staff, and I'm here with Grain Warehouse Manager Kyle Weinman. A few months ago, the Grain Warehouse staff was reviewing audited financial statements from Schooler and became aware of a period in time where Schooler's financials fell below the requirements that current assets need to be greater than current liabilities. In South Dakota law requires that when a company becomes aware of this, they must immediately notify us. Unfortunately, the immediate notification did not happen in this case, and that's why this matter is before you today. When we became aware of the issue, we immediately began talks with Schooler to figure out what happened and rectify the situation. Schooler has been forthright with staff and has fully cooperated with us every step of the way. Subsequent financial information reviewed by staff shows that Schooler's financial position has been rectified, and we do not have concerns about the financial viability of this company. With that, I would ask the Commission to approve this settlement agreement in resolution of this matter. Thank you.
Schooler, go ahead.
Hi, this is Alan Williams, Hush Blackwell, representing Schooler today, joined by Marlos, Ryan, and Nick from the Schooler Company. And we do not oppose the assessment of the $5,000 fine and are in agreement with the settlement agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the first question and then going to open it up because I'm sure there may be some questions. How did they fix the current asset, current liability ratio? And that's for Schooler first, and then I will follow up with staff. So how did they fix that? And how long did it take to fix it?
I'll pass that off to Ryan or Nick to answer about the financials.
Yes, hello. This is Nick Ketchum. I'm the corporate controller of the Schooler Company. So when we came to the realization that the current ratio is essential for grain licenses, especially in the state of South Dakota, we were able to rectify the deficiency by fixing short-term debt into long-term debt. So that was the immediate fix for the situation. Just providing some background on how we ended up in that financial situation. During the fiscal year, we went through complex restructuring in an effort to optimize our portfolio of assets. And in doing so, our focus was on some different financial covenants related to our debt agreements and not necessarily taking into consideration the requirement from the state of South Dakota, which was an oversight that we apologize for. We've since remediated this and put controls in place that will make sure that this does not happen again going forward.
Thank you. And you're a Class B in South Dakota, which has less requirements of doing the quarterly financials. Are there other states that make you do quarterly financials?
Not to my knowledge. I believe it's just annual reporting. So we have our audited financial statements completed annually.
Okay, thank you. And we appreciate the audit, that's for sure. So I'm going to go to commissioners. Questions?
Yeah, Commissioner Nelson here, and I think most of my questions have been answered. I appreciate that. But maybe, Schooler, I apologize, but I am not familiar with your company. If you could just help me fill me in on a little bit about your company, what kind of business you do in South Dakota, what kind of business you hope to do here, educate me.
Ryan and Nick, would you like to respond?
Yeah, the majority of the business
Ryan,
we do is buying bushels. Yeah, I'll take that. The majority of the business that we're conducting in South Dakota is just purchasing bushels from producers and commercial organizations as well, and then transporting that into different various end users throughout in South Dakota and as well as outside of South Dakota.
So are you a Canadian company? Is that where your headquarters is?
We're headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. And then do you have any facilities in South Dakota?
We do not have any grain facilities in South Dakota.
And once we get past this particular issue, assuming we approve the settlement agreement, South Dakota is still a place where you want to do business. Is that correct?
That is accurate.
And I guess maybe just one question for Kyle. Have you had any complaints from producers about this company?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Kyle Weinman. We have not had any complaints whatsoever about Schooler Company.
Thank you. That's all the questions I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. I did some research on this company too, and I think they have like 100 locations and they're global and very fascinating. I did not know about them before. I have one more question of staff, and I think you answered it, but I'm still going to ask it. The three commissioners in South Dakota are very committed to responsiveness of grain buyers and grain warehouse and how they answer questions and how they respond to you. It sounded like in your testimony, Logan, and I'm going to ask Kyle the same question. So it appears that this company was responsive and got back to you in a very timely manner.
Madam Chairman, thank you. This is Kyle Weinman, Grain Warehouse Manager. Yes, they have been very responsive, very easy to work with, yeah, they complied with everything we've asked for. So I have no problems, no issues.
Madam Chair, this is Logan Schaefbauer. I would just echo the comments. Since we contacted Schooler about this, they've been excellent to work with.
Thank you. And I just so appreciate that. I think all commissioners agree that the responsiveness of grain buyers and grain warehouse to our staff is very important. Other questions and or action of commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
In GW 26-001, I move that the commission approve the settlement agreement and assess a civil penalty of $5,000 against Schooler.
Comments?
It's just a quick comment. I appreciate the service that they do, and I know they're an incredibly large company, and I believe Kristen Edwards and I probably buy a couple of train loads of birdseed every year, so I'm happy to see that they're still around and competing and that we're not putting them out of business.
Other comments from commissioners? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. Motion carries. This is the opportunity for the public comment period. We have no one that signed up in the room and no telephone that signed up. So we will move on from public comment announcements. The Public Utilities Commission will be at the Black Hills Home Builders Association Home Show in Rapid City on March 27th through the 29th at the Monument. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 at 1:30 Central Time in room 413. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Fegan votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.